I'm Jake Parker, 34, a financial advisor who once believed family meant everything. For weeks, I planned a perfect Thanksgiving dinner in my new home, only to hear my brother Noah say, "You're a joke. No one cares about your stupid dinner, loser." Those words shattered something inside me. I never imagined I'd use my financial expertise against my own family, but sometimes respect needs to be earned the hard way. Before I tell you how I went from family doormat to taking back control, drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from and subscribe if you've ever had to teach someone a hard lesson about respect. Growing up in suburban Boston, I was always the middle child caught between two dominating personalities. My older brother Noah, now 38, was the golden child, quarterback, prom king, and later the successful businessman who could do no wrong in my parents' eyes. My younger sister Grace, 29, was the baby of the family, protected and doted on by everyone. And then there was me, reliable, responsible, but somehow invisible Jake. From our earliest days, the family dynamic was clear. When Noah brought home a B in math, my parents would celebrate with ice cream. When I brought home straight A's, I'd get a distracted, "good job," while they continued watching Noah's football game on TV. It wasn't that they were cruel, they just had their favorites, and I wasn't one of them. "Noah's got natural talent," my dad Robert would say. "Jake, you just need to work harder to stand out." And work harder I did. While Noah was partying through college on my parents' dime, I worked 2 jobs to pay my own tuition, graduating with honors in finance. The irony wasn't lost on me when I landed a position at one of Boston's top financial advisory firms while Noah was still finding himself, at 25. Not everyone can be a numbers guy, my mom Diana would say defensively whenever anyone compared our career paths. Noah's more of a people person. He's building connections. Those connections apparently didn't extend to financial responsibility. By the time I was 30, I had built a solid client base, invested wisely, and purchased my first condo. Noah, meanwhile, had started and failed at 3 different business ventures, each time being bailed out by our parents. Everything changed when Dad had his first heart attack 6 years ago. Suddenly, the family needed a numbers guy, after all. While Noah was busy making excuses about why he couldn't help, I stepped in to organize their finances, set up payment plans for the medical bills, and eventually took over managing the modest family trust my grandparents had left. "It's just temporary," Dad had said from his hospital bed. "Just until I'm back on my feet." But temporary became permanent. Soon, I was the unofficial family financial manager, helping Mom with budgeting, advising Dad on retirement planning, co-signing Noah's mortgage when his credit score was too low, and setting up a college fund for Grace. Last year alone, I had paid Grace's tuition for her final year of graduate school, $28,000, covered 3 of Noah's mortgage payments when his latest business venture was just about to take off, $7,500, and loaned my parents money to repair their roof, $15,000. None of which had been repaid, and all of which was met with the bare minimum of gratitude. "That's what family does," my mother would say whenever I mentioned repayment. "We help each other out." The helping, however, seemed to flow in one direction, from my wallet to everyone else's needs. Despite all this, I still craved their approval. When I closed on my new house in a quiet neighborhood just outside the city, I saw an opportunity to finally earn some recognition from my family. I would host Thanksgiving, our biggest family holiday, and show them that I wasn't just the family ATM. I was someone whose accomplishments deserved celebration too. For weeks I prepared. I took cooking classes to learn how to roast the perfect turkey. I spent hours researching recipes, bought top-shelf ingredients, and even hired a cleaning service to make sure every corner of my new home sparkled. I ordered a custom dining table that could comfortably seat all of us, my parents, Noah and his wife Emma with their 2 kids, Grace and her new boyfriend Tyler, and myself. 8 people around the table that symbolized everything I had worked for. The invitations were sent a month in advance. Everyone confirmed. Mom offered to bring her famous cranberry sauce, Grace said she'd handle dessert, and Noah, well, Noah just said they'd be there. We wouldn't miss it for the world, little brother, he texted. Emma's excited to see your new place. I believed him. That was my first mistake. Thanksgiving morning arrived with perfect weather, crisp and sunny, the kind of New England fall day that belongs on a postcard. I was up at 5 a.m., prepping the 20-pound heritage turkey I'd special ordered from a local farm. By 7 a.m., the house smelled like sage, thyme, and possibility. The doorbell rang at 11 a.m. My parents were early, as expected. The house looks interesting, Mom said, glancing around at the modern furnishings I'd carefully selected. Very bachelor pad. When are you going to find a nice girl and add a woman's touch to this place? Dad at least seemed impressed. Nice neighborhood, son. What did this set you back? Must be taking on quite a mortgage for all this space. I bit my tongue and guided them to the kitchen where I offered them coffee and pastries to tide them over until dinner, scheduled for 2 p.m. sharp. Grace and her boyfriend Tyler arrived around noon, bearing a beautiful homemade pumpkin pie and a bottle of wine. This place is amazing, Jake, Grace said, giving me a genuine hug. You've done so well for yourself. Tyler, who I was meeting for the first time, seemed like a decent guy, a grad student in engineering who looked at Grace like she hung the moon. For a moment, I felt a surge of optimism. Maybe this would be the Thanksgiving where things changed. By 1:30 p.m., everything was ready. The turkey was resting, sides were keeping warm, the table was set with the new china I bought specifically for this occasion, and a fire was crackling in the living room fireplace. The only problem? Noah, Emma, and their kids were nowhere to be seen. Should we call them? Mom asked, checking her watch for the 5th time. I already texted, I replied, trying to keep the edge out of my voice. He said they're running late. Something about traffic. At 2:15 p.m., I received another text, stuck in traffic. Kids getting restless. Start without us? At 2:45 p.m., after multiple assurances they were just 15 minutes away, I reluctantly agreed to serve dinner without them. The turkey was getting dry, and it wasn't fair to make everyone else wait. Noah's always been like this, Dad said dismissively as we finally sat down. Remember when he was 2 hours late to his own graduation party? That's just Noah being Noah. We were halfway through the meal when the front door burst open, and Noah's voice boomed through the house. Happy Thanksgiving, losers! The party can start now. Noah strode into the dining room with the confidence of a king arriving at his court, followed by his wife Emma looking apologetic, and their 2 children who immediately started running around the table. Brandon, Madison, settle down, Emma said half-heartedly as the kids ignored her. Sorry we're late, Noah announced, not sounding sorry at all. Traffic was insane. Plus we had to stop for food because the kids were starving. We grabbed some McDonald's. He winked at me. Hope you don't mind, bro. My stomach dropped. They had stopped for fast food on the way to the Thanksgiving dinner I had spent weeks preparing? You ate already? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Just the kids, Emma quickly clarified, though the ketchup stain on Noah's shirt suggested otherwise. Noah pulled up an extra chair, wedging himself between Mom and Dad, immediately launching into a story about some business deal he was working on. I silently served him and Emma plates of now lukewarm food. What is this anyway? Noah asked, poking at my carefully prepared sweet potato and bourbon souffle. Looks weird. It's a gourmet recipe, I explained. The chef who taught the cooking class said it was. You took cooking classes? Noah interrupted with a laugh. That's adorable. Couldn't you just have ordered catering if you wanted to impress everyone? Or better yet, let Mom cook like she always does. Mom beamed at this while I felt my face grow hot. I wanted to do something special, I said. This is the first holiday in my new home, and... Yeah, about that, Noah cut in again, looking around with an exaggerated grimace. Bit much, isn't it? What are you trying to prove with all this space? Planning to fill it with cats since you can't find a wife? Noah, Emma murmured, looking uncomfortable. He ignored her. And what's with the fancy table settings? We're family, not the Queen of England. Each comment was like a small cut. Individually bearable, collectively debilitating. I caught Grace shooting me sympathetic looks across the table, but she remained silent. The final blow came when Noah took a bite of turkey, made a show of struggling to chew it, and then reached for his water glass. Dry as the Sahara, he announced to the table. This is why people need to stay in their lane. You're a money guy, not a chef. Noah, that's enough, Dad said, but with no real conviction. What? I'm just being honest, Noah replied with a shrug. Look, Jake, it was a nice attempt, but next year let's go back to Mom's place where we can have a real Thanksgiving dinner, okay? This whole thing is just. He gestured vaguely around the table. Just what? I asked quietly. Noah looked me straight in the eye and said the words that would change everything between us forever. You're a joke. No one cares about your stupid dinner, loser. You're trying way too hard, and it's embarrassing. The table fell silent. Even the kids stopped fidgeting. Noah! Emma gasped. Mom quickly jumped in. He doesn't mean that, Jake. The food is lovely. Noah's just hangry because they got stuck in traffic. But the damage was done. I saw it in the pitying looks from Grace and Tyler, in Emma's embarrassment, in Dad's uncomfortable silence. I was, once again, the family joke. The try-hard middle child desperate for approval. I said nothing. I simply stood up, collected the plates, and carried them to the kitchen while Noah launched into another story about his latest business venture, as if nothing had happened. After dinner, we moved to the living room for coffee and Grace's pumpkin pie. I was going through the motions, a robotic host serving dessert, while still reeling from Noah's public humiliation. But worse was yet to come. By the way, Noah said casually as he sprawled across my new leather sofa, I used some money from the joint family account to take Emma and the kids to Cancun last month. Hope that's cool. My head snapped up. The joint family account? That's for emergencies and Dad's medical expenses. Well, Emma was about to have a mental breakdown from stress, so I'd call that an emergency, Noah laughed. It was only like $8,000. Dad shifted uncomfortably but said nothing. Mom suddenly became very interested in her pie. Speaking of money, Noah continued, oblivious to the tension, I'm going to need you to cover my mortgage again this month. Just temporarily. And the kids' private school tuition is due next week, $20,000 for the semester. You can just transfer it directly. And don't forget my last graduate school payment, Grace added, at least having the decency to look somewhat apologetic. It's due by December 15th. I set down my coffee cup. Noah, I've already covered your mortgage 3 times this year. You said your business was doing well. It is. We're just reinvesting all our profits right now. Very standard business practice. Something in his tone made me suspicious. What exactly is the business doing these days? Last I heard, you were launching some kind of tech startup. Noah waved his hand dismissively. We pivoted. Now we're in crypto and NFTs. It's complicated, you wouldn't understand. Try me, I said flatly. An uncomfortable silence fell over the room. Noah glanced at our parents, who suddenly seemed very tense. It was Dad who finally spoke. Son, there's something you should know. We had to remortgage the house a few months ago. You what? Why? Mom jumped in. Noah's business needed some capital, and we wanted to help. It's just temporary until things take off. I turned to Noah, disbelief washing over me. You had them remortgage their home? They're in their 60s. Dad's already had 1 heart attack. Don't be so dramatic, Noah scoffed. It's an investment. They'll get it all back and more when we go public. And how much was this investment? I asked, already dreading the answer. More uncomfortable silence. 200,000, Dad finally admitted, staring at the floor. The room seemed to tilt around me. $200,000, most of my parents' retirement security, gone to another of Noah's schemes. I can't believe this, I said, standing up. Noah, please tell me you at least have a solid business plan, actual clients, something? Noah's face flushed with anger. What's your problem? Just because you took the safe, boring route doesn't mean my way won't work out. Some of us take risks to achieve greatness. Risks? You're gambling with our parents' retirement. Jake, please, Mom interjected. Let's not fight on Thanksgiving. Noah knows what he's doing. The blind faith in her voice was the final straw. For years, I'd watched them favor Noah, make excuses for him, clean up his messes. And I'd helped them do it. As the argument escalated, Emma quietly excused herself to take the kids upstairs. When she came back down, she pulled me aside into the kitchen. I'm so sorry about all this, Jake, she said in a low voice. The dinner was beautiful. Noah's been under a lot of stress lately. Is the business really doing that badly? I asked. Emma's eyes darted toward the living room. There is no business, Jake. Not really. It's just a website and some pitch decks. Noah's been, she hesitated, gambling. A lot. Online poker, sports betting. He thinks he's due for a big win that will solve everything. The revelation hit me like a physical blow. I'd suspected Noah was exaggerating his success, but this was worse than I imagined. Does anyone else know? She shook her head. Your parents wouldn't believe me if I told them. They think Noah walks on water. As Emma returned to the living room, I stayed in the kitchen, processing what I'd learned. Through the doorway, I could hear the conversation continuing without me. Jake's always been so uptight about money, Noah was saying. But he's got plenty. Did you see this house? He can afford to help family out. He has been very generous, Mom agreed. He's a convenient ATM, Noah laughed. Just have to put up with his lectures and sad puppy dog eyes whenever he signs a check. That's not fair, Grace interjected. Jake works hard for his money. Please, Noah scoffed. He pushes numbers around a spreadsheet. I'm out there hustling, taking risks, building something. He's just too scared to leave his comfort zone. I'd heard enough. I walked back into the living room, and the conversation immediately stopped. The guilty looks on their faces confirmed they knew I'd overheard. I think it's getting late, I said, my voice unnaturally calm. Maybe we should call it a night. What followed was a flurry of awkward goodbyes. My parents hugged me stiffly, thanking me for dinner while avoiding eye contact. Grace squeezed my arm sympathetically before following Tyler out. Noah and Emma collected their sugar-hyped children, who had managed to spill juice on my new carpet and break a vase during their brief stay. As they reached the door, Noah turned back. Don't forget about those transfers. Kids' tuition is due Tuesday. No thanks for dinner. No apology for his behavior. Just another demand. After everyone left, I stood alone in my beautiful new house, surrounded by dirty dishes, broken decorations, and the crushing weight of being used by the people who were supposed to love me most. The house fell silent as the last car pulled away from the curb. I stood in the middle of my living room, surveying the damage, physical and emotional, left in my family's wake. Dirty plates were stacked haphazardly on the coffee table. Noah's kids had ground cranberry sauce into the carpet. The beautiful centerpiece I'd arranged was knocked over, flower petals scattered across the dining table. But it was the invisible mess that weighed heaviest. Years of being the responsible one, the reliable one, the endless source of financial support with no reciprocity, no respect, not even basic appreciation. I began cleaning mechanically, scraping uneaten food into the garbage disposal. The 20-pound heritage turkey, half-eaten and already drying out, represented nearly $100 and countless hours of preparation down the drain. As I washed dishes, memories flooded back in painful clarity. Noah at my college graduation, showing up late and leaving early because he had more important things to do. My parents missing my company awards ceremony because Noah had a flag football game. The time I was hospitalized with appendicitis, and no one visited because Noah was going through another breakup and needed family support. The pattern was clear. I was the afterthought, the contingency plan, the safety net, never the priority. After the kitchen was clean, I went to my home office and opened my laptop. As a financial advisor, I had always kept meticulous records, even for family loans that we all pretended were gifts. I pulled up the spreadsheet I'd been maintaining for years. Noah's mortgage payments, $22,500. Noah's business, investments, $45,000. Noah's car loan, $18,000. Noah's children's school, $40,000. Grace's tuition, $52,000. Grace's apartment security deposit, $3,000. Grace's car repair, $2,800. Parents' home repairs, $15,000. Parents' medical bills not covered by insurance, $7,500. Parents' vacation for their anniversary, $5,000. The total made my stomach lurch, $210,800. Over $200,000 I had given to my family over the past 5 years, not including countless dinners, gifts, and smaller expenses I hadn't bothered to track. And what had I received in return? Mockery. Disrespect. Being called a convenient ATM behind my back. My phone buzzed with a text from Grace. Sorry about today. Noah was being a jerk as usual. Sorry didn't cut it anymore. Where was her defense when Noah was belittling me at my own dinner table? Where was anyone's defense? I opened my banking app and checked my accounts. Another text came through, this time from Noah. Hey loser, don't forget to transfer that tuition money tomorrow. Also, Emma's car needs new brakes. Can you cover that too? Maybe 2K should do it. No please. No thank you. Not even the pretense of it being a loan anymore. Something snapped inside me. I had spent my adult life trying to earn my family's approval through financial generosity, and all it had gotten me was deeper entanglement in their irresponsibility and entitlement. I stayed up all night, poring over financial records, bank statements, and legal documents. I discovered things that made my blood boil. Noah had taken out a second mortgage on his house, a house I had helped him buy with the down payment, without telling me, despite my name still being on some of the paperwork as a co-signer. The family emergency account I had set up for my parents' medical needs had been systematically drained for luxury purchases and cash withdrawals, most traced back to Noah. The college fund I had established for Grace had barely enough left for her final tuition payment because Noah had somehow convinced our parents to borrow from it for his business. But the final straw came at 3 a.m., when, unable to sleep, I checked my email and found a notification from a credit monitoring service. Someone had attempted to open a credit card in my name. The application address? Noah's house. My own brother had tried to commit identity theft against me. As dawn broke over my neighborhood, I made a decision. I would no longer be the family ATM, the emotional punching bag, the joke. It was time for consequences. I spent the next day, Black Friday, fittingly, developing a comprehensive plan. First, I called my lawyer to ensure everything I was about to do was legal. Then I began executing the most difficult financial decisions of my life. I contacted the bank to remove my name as co-signer from Noah's mortgage, triggering a review of his loan terms given his poor credit history. I froze the family emergency account, documenting the unauthorized withdrawals as potential fraud. I transferred the remaining balance of Grace's tuition fund to a new account solely in my name, ensuring her education would be covered but no one could raid it. I filed paperwork to formalize every gift I had given as an official loan, complete with the standard interest rates I would have charged any client. I contacted the credit bureaus about the fraudulent credit application, triggering an automatic fraud investigation. By Saturday evening, my phone was exploding with notifications. First from Grace. What's going on? The university says my tuition account has been frozen. Then from my mother. Jake, we tried to get Dad's medication and the emergency card was declined. Call us immediately. And finally, a barrage from Noah, escalating from confused to threatening. Did you freeze the accounts? What the hell are you playing at? The mortgage company called me for an emergency review? "You're going to regret this little power trip, you vindictive loser." I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I drafted a single email addressed to the entire family. "For years, I have financially supported this family without recognition, respect, or gratitude. That ends today. All funds have been secured. All gifts have been properly documented as loans. All accounts have been protected from unauthorized use. If you wish to discuss repayment terms, my lawyer will be available on Monday." Noah called me 17 times that night. I didn't answer. When he showed up pounding on my door at midnight, I turned off the lights and let him rage in the cold until he gave up and left. This wasn't about revenge. It was about finally standing up for myself and forcing my family to face the consequences of their actions and entitlement. It was about demanding the respect I had earned but never received. It was the hardest and most necessary thing I had ever done. Monday morning arrived with a crisp December chill. I had taken the day off work, anticipating the storm that was about to hit. My lawyer, Patricia Winters, arrived at 9 a.m. sharp, her no-nonsense attitude exactly what I needed. "Are you absolutely certain you want to proceed with this?" she asked, spreading documents across my dining room table, the same table where my family had humiliated me days earlier. "I've never been more certain of anything," I replied. "Family financial disputes are messy," she warned. "Once we file these documents, there's no easy way to undo it." "I understand. They've left me no choice." For the next 2 hours, we meticulously went through every document, every account, every legal maneuver. Everything had to be airtight if I was going to reclaim control of my financial life and force my family to confront their behavior. First, we finalized the paperwork removing me as co-signer on Noah's mortgage. Since my good credit had been the only reason he qualified for the loan in the first place, this would trigger an automatic review by the bank. Noah would either need to refinance at a much higher interest rate or find another co-signer, either of which would be easy given his credit history and gambling problem. "Is this legal given that I signed the original paperwork?" I asked. Patricia nodded. "The co-signer release clause is right here in Section 12b. You're exercising your legal right to withdraw financial responsibility after documented misuse of funds. The evidence of his gambling and the attempted identity theft gives us solid ground." Next, we formalized the loans. Every dollar I had given to my family over the years was now officially documented as a personal loan with standard interest rates and repayment terms. Patricia assured me this was completely legal since there had never been any formal gift documentation filed. Without a gift tax form or written gift statement, the default legal position is that these were loans, she explained. Your detailed records of the amounts and dates make our case even stronger. We set up a formal trust for my parents with me as the trustee. This would ensure Dad's medical needs would be covered, but the funds couldn't be raided for Noah's schemes or unnecessary luxuries. Patricia helped me structure it so that legitimate medical expenses would be paid directly to providers, bypassing my parents' accounts entirely. For Grace, I established a direct payment arrangement with her university for the final tuition bill. The money would go straight to the school, not through her or my parents where it might be borrowed again. As we worked, my phone continued to explode with messages and calls. I had silenced it but could see the notifications piling up on the screen. Noah was threatening legal action of his own. My parents were cycling between pleading and guilt-tripping. Grace was the only one showing any hint of understanding, though even her messages carried an undercurrent of, "Can't you just fix this?" By noon, Patricia and I had completed the necessary paperwork. As she packed up to leave, she gave me one final piece of advice. "I've seen many family financial disputes in my career, Jake. They usually go one of two ways. Either the family realizes they've been taking advantage and works to make amends, or they double down and cut ties with the person who stopped the gravy train. Be prepared for either outcome." I thanked her and showed her out. Alone again, I finally looked through the messages. From Noah. "You think you're so smart? I've got lawyers too. They say what you're doing is illegal. You can't just change the terms on family gifts. Mom is crying because of you. Dad's blood pressure is through the roof. Hope you're happy destroying the family over your bruised ego. You've always been jealous of me. This proves it. You're pathetic. From my parents. Jake, we don't understand what's gotten into you. This isn't how we raised you to treat family. Your father's medication is $400 and we can't access the account. Is this how you want things to be? Him suffering because you're upset about Thanksgiving? Please call us. We can work this out as a family without lawyers. From Grace. I get that you're upset, and honestly Noah was way out of line. But my graduation is at stake here. Can we talk? I composed a single text message and sent it to all of them. I'm available to meet as a family this Saturday at 2 p.m. at my house to discuss the new financial arrangements. My lawyer will be present. If you choose not to attend, the legal process will continue as filed. Noah responded immediately, You're dead to me. My parents, we'll be there. Please reconsider what you're doing to this family. Grace, I'll be there. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. The days leading up to Saturday were the longest of my life. I continued going to work, advising clients on their financial futures while my own family situation was in turmoil. The irony wasn't lost on me. On Friday afternoon, I received an unexpected visitor at my office. Emma, Noah's wife, looking exhausted and nervous. Can we talk? She asked after my assistant showed her in. Not as Noah's wife, but as someone who's worried about how this is all unfolding. I gestured to the chair across from my desk. I'm listening. What you doing? She began, then paused. It's causing chaos, but maybe it needed to happen. Noah's gambling is worse than I told you. We're not just behind on mortgage payments, we're behind on everything. The kids' school has threatened to remove them. There are credit card bills I didn't even know existed. I'm sorry to hear that, I said carefully. But why are you telling me this? Because I want you to know I understand why you're doing this, even if the rest of them don't. And, she hesitated, I've applied for a job. First time since before the kids were born. I start next week. That's great, Emma. Really? Noah doesn't know yet. He still thinks you'll cave and everything will go back to normal. She stood to leave. I just wanted you to know that maybe some good will come from all this, eventually. After she left, I sat thinking about the tangled financial and emotional web my family had woven. I had enabled their behavior for years, and untangling it all would be painful for everyone. But it was necessary. Sometimes, the only way to heal is to first lance the wound. Saturday arrived cold and gray, matching the mood as I prepared my house for the family meeting. I had set up the dining room table with folders for each family member, containing detailed records of the money I had given them, the new formal loan documentation, and options for repayment plans. Patricia arrived 30 minutes early to review our strategy. Remember, she advised, stay calm, stick to the facts, and don't let them derail the conversation with emotional appeals. This is about financial boundaries, not punishment. At exactly 2 p.m., the doorbell rang. My parents stood on the porch, looking older than they had just days ago at Thanksgiving. Grace and Tyler were behind them, her expression anxious, his supportive. Noah and Emma arrived last, pulling up in his luxury SUV, bought with money he didn't have. Noah stormed up the walkway while Emma followed with an apologetic glance toward me. Nice of you to grace us with your presence, Noah sneered as he brushed past me into the house. Bringing your attack dog, I see, he added, nodding toward Patricia. Noah, please, Mom said tiredly. Let's try to resolve this civilly. We gathered around the dining room table, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. Dad looked pale, Mom kept wringing her hands, Grace couldn't meet my eyes, and Noah sat with his arms crossed, radiating hostility. Only Emma and Tyler seemed somewhat composed. Thank you all for coming, I began, trying to keep my voice steady. I've asked my attorney Patricia Winters to be present to ensure everything we discuss is clear and legally sound. We shouldn't need lawyers to talk as a family, Mom interjected. Unfortunately, we do, I replied, because this family has a history of financial arrangements that have been systematically abused. Noah slammed his hand on the table. Cut the corporate bullshit, Jake. You're having a temper tantrum because I called you out on your sad little dinner party. Patricia stepped in smoothly. Mr. Parker has documented extensive financial support provided to each of you over the past 5 years, totaling $210,800. We have prepared. Wait, what? Dad interrupted, looking stunned. That can't be right. It is, I said, sliding their folder toward them. Every loan, every bill paid, every emergency covered. It's all there, with dates and amounts. Mom opened the folder with shaking hands, Dad looking over her shoulder. Their eyes widened as they scanned the pages. We had no idea it was this much, Dad muttered. That's not even counting the smaller expenses, I continued. Birthday gifts, holiday presents, restaurant bills I've covered. Or the fact that I've been managing the family trust and your retirement accounts for free. Services my clients pay thousands for annually. Grace opened her folder next, gasping at the total. $57,800? Jake, I knew about the tuition, but when did I borrow the rest? The apartment deposit. The car repairs. The time you needed dental work not covered by insurance. The loan when you were between jobs. I kept my voice neutral, reciting facts rather than accusations. Noah hadn't touched his folder. This is ridiculous. Family helps family? You're acting like we're bank customers who defaulted on loans. That's exactly what happened, I replied. Except banks have formal agreements and consequences for non-payment. I had nothing but your word, which proved worthless. How dare you, Noah began, half rising from his chair. Noah attempted to open a credit card in my name last week, I announced to the room. That's identity theft. It's a felony. The room went silent. All eyes turned to Noah, whose face had gone from red to white. That's a lie, he stammered unconvincingly. I slid a copy of the credit application across the table. The application was submitted from your IP address, Noah. The contact phone number listed was yours. You were always going to pay it, he muttered, no longer denying it. You always do. Not anymore, I said firmly. Which brings us to why we're here. Each folder contains a formal loan agreement for the money I've provided. It includes reasonable repayment terms and standard interest rates, much better than you'd get from any bank. You can either sign these agreements and begin repayment, or I can pursue legal options to recover the funds. You'd sue your own family? Mom asked, tears in her eyes. You'd steal your brother's identity? I countered. You'd drain an account set up for Dad's medical needs? You'd mock me in my own home after I cooked for days to host you for Thanksgiving? Dad placed a restraining hand on Noah's arm as he began to rise again. Son, let's all take a breath here. Jake has some valid points. Valid points? Noah exploded. He's holding the family hostage over money. Money he can clearly afford to give, looking at this house. That's exactly the problem, I said quietly. You all see my financial support as something you're entitled to because I can afford it. You take and take without gratitude, without respect, without any intention of repaying or reciprocating. That ends today. Grace spoke up, her voice small. What about my final tuition payment? I'm so close to graduating. I've arranged to pay the university directly, I told her. Your education won't be affected, Grace. But after that, you're on your own financially. Thank you, she said, surprising me. That's more than fair. Noah wasn't finished. And what about Mom and Dad's remortgage? The money they gave me was an investment in our future. You can't just cut them off when they need help with payments. Your gambling isn't an investment, Noah, Emma said suddenly, drawing stunned looks from my parents. It's an addiction, and we need to stop pretending otherwise. Emma? Noah hissed. What the hell? Gambling? Mom repeated, looking between Noah and Emma. What gambling? The conversation devolved from there, with Noah alternately denying Emma's claims and minimizing them, while my parents looked increasingly horrified as the truth of their golden child's activities came to light. Grace and Tyler sat in uncomfortable silence, occasionally exchanging glances. After nearly an hour of heated discussion, accusations, and revelations, Patricia suggested a short break. As we reconvened, the mood had shifted subtly. My parents looked shell-shocked, Noah sullen, and Grace contemplative. "I'll sign the loan agreement," Grace said suddenly, reaching for a pen. "And I'll start repaying once I get a job after graduation. You've helped me enough, Jake." Tyler nodded approvingly beside her. My parents exchanged a look before Dad spoke. "We had no idea how much we've come to rely on you, son. It wasn't right, and we need to make changes." He pulled the loan document toward him. "We'll sign too, and figure out a way to make payments." All eyes turned to Noah, who remained defiant. "This is extortion. I'm not signing anything." "Then I'll proceed with the identity theft report," I said calmly, "and remove myself as co-signer on your mortgage immediately, rather than giving you the 90 days I was offering to find alternative arrangements." Emma placed a hand on Noah's arm. "Noah, please. Think about the kids. Think about our future." "Some brother you are," Noah spat, but reached for the papers nonetheless. "Fine. I'll sign your stupid agreement. But don't expect me to ever forgive you for this." He scrawled his signature angrily across the document, nearly tearing the paper. "I don't need your forgiveness, Noah," I replied. "I need your respect. And if this is the only way to get it, so be it." As the meeting concluded and my family prepared to leave, the weight of what had transpired hung heavy in the air. Relationships had been damaged, possibly beyond repair. But for the first time in my adult life, I had stood up for myself, demanded respect, and refused to be the family doormat. Mom hugged me awkwardly at the door. "I hope someday you'll understand we never meant to take advantage." "And I hope someday you'll understand why I had to do this," I replied. Noah left without a word, slamming his car door and peeling away from the curb. Emma gave me a small nod that conveyed more understanding than anyone else had shown. Grace was the last to leave. "For what it's worth," she said quietly, "I am sorry. And I'm proud of you for standing up for yourself. Even if it hurts right now." As I closed the door behind them, I felt no triumph, no vindication, only the quiet certainty that I had finally done what was necessary, not just for my financial health, but for my self-respect. The family I had known was fractured. Whether something stronger could grow in its place remained to be seen. 6 months passed like a slow exhale after holding my breath for years. Spring turned to summer, and with the changing seasons came transformation in my family dynamics as well, some painful, some surprisingly hopeful. Noah, as expected, initially made good on his threat to consider me dead to him. He blocked my number, returned my birthday card unopened, and told the kids they couldn't mention my name in the house. The first 2 months of loan repayments came not from him directly but through Emma, who would drop off checks without making eye contact, clearly caught in the middle of a situation not of her making. But reality has a way of breaking through even the strongest denial. When Noah's mortgage lender gave him 90 days to find a new co-signer or refinance at a significantly higher rate, his options quickly dwindled. His parents couldn't help. They were dealing with their own financial restructuring. His business connections proved unwilling once they looked at his actual financial situation. In April, I received a text from a number I didn't recognize. "Coffee? Tomorrow at 10, Riley's Cafe." It was Noah, using Emma's phone. We met on neutral ground, both of us guarded, either knowing quite how to begin. Noah looked different, thinner, less flashy, with shadows under his eyes that spoke of sleepless nights. "I'm going to Gamblers Anonymous," he said abruptly, before I could even sit down properly. 3 weeks now. It wasn't an apology, but it was something. "That's good, Noah. Really good. Emma got promoted. Assistant manager now." He stirred his coffee endlessly. "I'm working at her dad's construction company. Starting at the bottom. Manual labor." I nodded, waiting. "The kids ask about you." His voice cracked slightly. "Madison keeps asking why Uncle Jake doesn't come over anymore." "I'm not the one who made that decision, Noah." He looked up then, really meeting my eyes for the first time. I know. We talked for nearly 2 hours. Not about money or the past, but about his recovery, one day at a time. About Emma's newfound confidence as a working mother. About the humbling experience of physical labor for someone who had spent years presenting himself as a big-shot entrepreneur. I'm not ready to say you were right about everything, he admitted as we prepared to leave. But I'm not the same person I was at Thanksgiving. Neither am I replied honestly. We didn't hug, but we shook hands, a formal gesture that somehow felt right for this tentative new beginning. My parents' journey was different but equally transformative. The revelation of Noah's gambling and their own enabling behavior had hit them hard. Dad, ever practical once faced with undeniable facts, had taken the initiative to meet with a financial advisor, not me. We all agreed that would be inappropriate now, to restructure their retirement planning. Mom struggled more with the emotional implications. We failed both of you, she said during a quiet dinner at their house in May. Noah by enabling his worst impulses, and you by taking your support for granted. It wasn't all bad, I assured her, finding it easier to be generous now that boundaries were established. You gave me values, work ethic, responsibility, perseverance. Those things helped make me successful. But we never appreciated that success, Dad acknowledged. We were so busy worrying about Noah's struggles that we never celebrated your victories. They had begun making modest but consistent payments on their loan. More importantly, they had stopped asking me to solve every family financial crisis. When their air conditioning broke during the first heat wave of summer, they called a repairman and set up a payment plan, not my credit card. Grace graduated with her master's degree in May. I attended the ceremony, sitting between my parents and Tyler, who had proposed to her the week before. Noah and Emma sat a row behind us, still uncomfortable in my presence but making the effort for Grace's sake. I got a job offer, Grace told me at her graduation dinner. Environmental engineering firm in Boston. The starting salary is better than I expected. That's fantastic, I said, genuinely happy for her. I've worked out a budget to start repaying you in September, she continued. Tyler helped me with the calculations. No rush, I found myself saying. Get settled first. She shook her head firmly. No. I want to do this right. You were there for me when I needed it, and I took advantage. It's time I took responsibility. Of all my family members, Grace had adapted most readily to our new dynamic. Perhaps because she was younger, less set in her ways. Or perhaps because she had the least to lose from honest self-reflection. My own journey these past 6 months had been equally challenging. Setting boundaries had been necessary but lonely. There were days I questioned my decision, nights I lay awake wondering if I had destroyed my family beyond repair. Therapy helped. Dr. Keating, a no-nonsense woman in her 50s, had guided me through unpacking years of people-pleasing behavior and misplaced guilt. You didn't create this situation, she reminded me during one particularly difficult session. You just stopped enabling it. There's a big difference. Work provided another anchor. I had always been good at my job, but now, freed from constant family financial emergencies, I found new focus and energy. I was recently promoted to senior advisor, with my own team to manage. And unexpectedly, I had met someone. Jennifer was a corporate lawyer I encountered at a client's retirement party. Smart, independent, and refreshingly direct, she had asked me out for coffee after we spent an hour discussing investment strategies for small businesses. My ex was terrible with money, she told me on our third date. Always looking for get-rich-quick schemes, never willing to put in the work. Financial compatibility is non-negotiable for me now. I couldn't agree more, I said, thinking how much had changed in 6 months. In July, I hosted another family dinner. Not Thanksgiving, just a simple summer barbecue. No elaborate preparations, no desperate need for approval, just food and conversation on my back patio. Noah and Emma came with the kids, who were overjoyed to see their uncle again. My parents brought a salad and nothing else, no baggage, no expectations. Grace and Tyler arrived with a bottle of wine and easy smiles. As we sat around the table, the same table that had witnessed last Thanksgiving's disaster, I was struck by how different everything felt. The conversation was lighter, more authentic. Noah talked about his 90-day sobriety chip. Dad mentioned their new budget without shame. Grace and Tyler discussed wedding plans with realistic financial considerations. No one asked me for money. No one belittled my achievements. No one took my hospitality for granted. After dinner, as everyone helped clear the table without being asked, Emma pulled me aside. "Thank you," she said simply. "For dinner?" It was nothing. For the wake-up call. Our marriage was drowning in secrets and debt. Noah was spiraling. I was enabling. Something had to break the cycle. She squeezed my arm. "It's not perfect now, but it's honest. That's a start." Later, as I waved goodbye to the last car pulling away, I reflected on everything that had happened since that fateful Thanksgiving. The painful confrontations. The legal documents. The tears and accusations and silences. And now, the slow, tentative rebuilding. I had learned that respect cannot be bought, not with money, not with endless giving, not with silent acceptance of mistreatment. Respect must be required, boundaries must be maintained, and sometimes the most loving thing you can do for someone is to stop sheltering them from the consequences of their actions. My family was healing not despite my financial tough love, but because of it. By refusing to be their enabler, I had given them the opportunity to become better versions of themselves. And I had become a better version of myself too, someone who valued his own worth, who didn't measure love by dollars given, who understood that true family relationships must be built on mutual respect and reciprocity. The road ahead would not be perfect. Old habits die hard, and we would all slip occasionally into familiar patterns. But the foundation had shifted. The rules had changed. And in that change lay the possibility of something healthier for all of us. As I closed my front door, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't experienced in years. The burden of being the family financial savior had been heavy, but I hadn't realized just how heavy until I set it down. Sometimes, the most difficult conversations lead to the most necessary changes. Sometimes, losing what you thought was your role in the family allows you to find who you truly are. And sometimes, when you finally stand up for yourself, you give others the chance to stand on their own 2 feet as well. Have you ever had to set difficult boundaries with people you love? Comment below with your experience. Did it ultimately strengthen or damage your relationship? Don't forget to like this video if you've ever had to make a tough decision for your own well-being. Subscribe for more real-life stories about family dynamics, and share with someone who might need the courage to establish their own boundaries. Remember, respect is not negotiable, and sometimes the hardest choices lead to the healthiest outcomes. Thank you for listening to my story.